Do you dream of having your own special outdoor space? A small garden that you can admire, enjoy, and call your own. And then you stop and think, I have no idea how to make it. Well, you're not alone.
Monty Don has travelled up and down the country visiting amateur gardeners with bold ambitions. He's scrutinised their plans and pushed them out of their comfort zones.
Going out into deeper, darkest, unknown territory, isn't it?
It's not been easy.
I hate it.
But everyone's worked incredibly hard.
Both of us want to sleep for a week, pretty much.
You've had your tea break, come on.
And the transformations have been extraordinary.
It's just incredible, it really is.
I declare this garden open! I do believe that everybody, however small their garden, can cultivate a big dream.
This time, our two gardeners are hoping Monty can bring something special into their lives.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
One dreams of enchantment.
It's really giving it kind of the fairy grotto.
The other hopes to feed body and soul.
I want it to be a working allotment, but also somewhere where I can open a cold beer at the end of a hard day's digging.
Both are tackling big dreams on their own.
You planted a big tree. Not many people ever do that.
And are in need of Monty's guiding but firm hand.
How many hard days digging have you done so far? Because it's pretty overgrown.
Are they asking too much of their spaces and of themselves?
Nobody thinks that it's going to work. So, yeah, I've got a bit of a point to prove here.
He'll like it. And if he doesn't, I'll get him drunk.
Blackpool, on the Lancashire coast, is the home of our first gardener, Alex, an accountant in the civil service. As a first-time buyer, she left her parents' home and moved into this small new-build house 18 months ago, with her spaniel, Spock.
I want it a bit wild, a bit untamed. It's a bit of a blank canvas.
That's quite a dream away from the way it looks right now. 32 square metres of, well, nothing much.
I want an enchanted forest theme. I want a bit of a fairy and mythical creature influence throughout the garden, toadstools, that kind of thing.
Luckily, this novice gardener can count on the help of parents Kevin and Susan, as well as Monty.
I think my mum was particularly thrilled because she was already a Monty Don fan.
I'm just hoping for his years of knowledge, his advice.
I'm definitely not an expert, so I'm looking for all the help I can get.
Our second space is in the heart of Bristol. It's a bit of a wilderness, recently taken over by Ross, who dreams of his very own allotment.
At the moment, the plot needs a lot of TLC. It's overgrown and it needs digging.
Ross is keen to make it productive, but with no experience of growing edibles, he doesn't know where to begin.
I mean, I come up here a couple of times a week and then I just end up kind of staring at the ground for half an hour going, what am I doing?
Ross has had other reasons for feeling despondent.
Well, 6 months ago, I lost my job, broke up with my partner I was living with, and found myself without anywhere to live.
Since then, the good news is Ross has found work and somewhere to live. But there is one drawback.
It doesn't have a garden. I want to grow my own vegetables and also somewhere to relax at the end of the day, which is all part of the kind of rebuilding process.
His friend Sarah is ready to help. She's sure that if Ross got down to work here, it will be the next stage in putting his life together again.
Nature is a great healer. It grounds you. And so I think that Ross's whole healing process will be really getting to grips with the allotment.
There's a lot at stake. So can Monty help Ross achieve his life-affirming dream?
Yeah, I think it'll be great fun having Monty up here. Yeah, he's a legend, isn't he?
It's the very end of spring. With the start of the summer season on its way, it's a perfect time to begin a garden project. Monty's making his first visit to the seaside resort of Blackpool to see what he can do to help Alex create her dream garden.
I'm sure whatever he has to say, he'll be very polite about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. It's an evolving garden. We're open to discussion, open to different opinions. So we'll see.
Oh, who's that at the door?
here barking. Hello, hello.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Susan. Would you like to come in?
Love to. And who's that?
That is Spock.
Right, come on, Spock. It's me you're barking at.
Spock! Spock, come on.
Alex, Susan and Spock can't wait to show him the tiny back garden. At the moment, it's a new-built classic, only 4 metres by 8, laid with turf, a plain fence, a small paved area, and an array of random plant pots.
Right. It is a small space.
And she has big dreams.
Right. What do you want to do here?
I want to create my own little enchanted woodland in the back garden.
When you say an enchanted woodland, what do you mean?
I suppose in my mind, I'm seeing kind of more of a stylised woodland.
More of an interpretation.
Yeah.
Are you feeling like it will be coming into a woodland glade, or is it a path leading you somewhere?
I don't want it too structured, too formal. I do want it a bit wild.
Right.
I think her intention is to have a path that actually does lead to something.
Right. And what would you like it to lead to?
I'm not 100% on what feature I want at the bottom of the garden yet.
And the other thing which is key in a small space is keep it simple.
Yeah.
You know, one idea done well will look 10 times better than 10 ideas done badly.
Next, the question that can be a bit of a reality check for our dreamers.
But what sort of budget are we talking about?
1,500.
Right.
And I've got a bit of leeway, so I can go up to 2,000, but I'm not spending over 2,000.
OK, fine.
There speaks our careful young accountant.
You know, this is a small space. It means you can have something nice for that. That's completely realistic. What I'd like, really, is for you to show me any pictures, drawings.
OK.
All right?
Yes.
OK, let's go and see some.
Let's go.
Alex's plan is to build a wooden deck at the back of the house with rustic wooden seating and a herb planter made from a recycled timber pallet. She wants to create a wide, curving grass path down the middle of the garden. There would be logs as stepping stones, leading under a rose arch to a row of ornamental trees. She wants to cover her fences with colourful climbers and plant up her borders with wild flowers and cottage garden plants. Monty's experienced eye spots a few common design mistakes.
Your path is very wide and a tiny strip of border along the edge there.
The path is probably going to be about a third of the garden.
So it's going to be, essentially, a big area of grass with 2 little borders on either side, but with logs, saving stones set in.
It would be
Monty opens up Alex's plan a bit more.
At all. Why not just have the log stepping stones and make the borders go right up to them?
Right.
So it's all border, and then your path winds through it.
I've already bought a rose arch, so it would have to be a specific width to accommodate the rose arch.
But the rose arch can go anywhere. Just have roses climbing up. You don't have to walk through it.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And to add to her plan, Alex has pulled together some images.
Anything else that you saw that you liked?
Yeah.
Roses?
Lights in a tree.
To have lights in a tree, you need a tree to have lights in, don't you?
I do have trees. They're not quite that big, though.
No, but you could spend £300–400 buying one magical tree that was the sort of centre of the garden, and the whole thing suddenly comes alive because it's based around a really strong idea.
No, you're making me feel lucky to have a small garden now.
Monty suggests removing everything and starting from scratch. He thinks Alex should plant one large dramatic tree in the centre of the garden. She should use wood chippings instead of grass, and keeping her idea for a log path, it should lead down the garden to her rose arch at the far end. The rest of the space could then be mulched and planted up with clumps of woodland plants and climbers to hide her bare fence. Alex has a lot to think about, but there's one thing she and Monty already agree on.
Before we can do that, obviously the grass has to come up, doesn't it?
Definitely.
So with Dad Kevin already at work on the new deck, time for a lesson in turf lifting.
Well, the easiest way to take up turf is to cut it in strips.
Right.
And you can get under it. Try and slide under if you can. If you can, what you do is you lift a bit like that, say, like that, and you've got a turf out. And you could pick up the rest of you could come home from work every day and do half an hour turf lifting.
I think I'd rather be at work for an extra half an hour.
And with the groundworks well underway, Monty leaves Alex and her family with a few big ideas to mull over.
It is more dramatic than what I was originally planning, so I am a little bit nervous about that.
I think if Alex can bring herself to base the garden around a large tree in the centre, which her budget would allow her to do, not only will it convert a tiny space into something really extraordinary, but also it will tap into something deeper inside her. So that's a possibility that I really look forward to. And if she decides against it, it doesn't matter.
It's the middle of June, very late to start growing summer veg from scratch. Monty's come to Bristol to take his first look at Ross's allotment.
I'd like to say I don't know what I think Monty's going to think, but I know what he's going to think. He's going to think, Christ, this is all a bit overgrown, there's a lot of grass and a lot of weeds. Looking forward to seeing what he has to say.
Monty's intrigued by this challenge too.
Ross, very nice to meet you, Monty.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
So is this your plot?
Mine is the second half.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Ross's allotment is what's known as a half plot. It's about 25 metres long and 7 metres wide and comes with a rickety old shed and a couple of plum trees. Despite having no previous gardening experience, Ross has already tried planting some potatoes, a few herbs and some strawberries.
Why an allotment?
I want it to be a working allotment, but also function as a garden, somewhere where you can sit in my shed, listen to the cricket, maybe open a cold beer at the end of a hard day's digging.
How many hard days digging have you done so far? Because without putting too fine a point on it, it's pretty overgrown, Ross.
It is, yeah. I'm going to blame the weather.
Okay, fine. All gardeners can blame the weather. Yeah. But to make this work at all and to make it pleasurable, you've got to get on top of it.
Yeah.
With Ross left in no doubt about the work ahead, Monty moves on to the detail. He needs to know more about Ross's dreams for his project.
What do you want to grow?
Your standards, you know, your potatoes, your carrots, your onions. Something a little bit more interesting that I've never tried before.
I see you've got some strawberries here, which is lovely and great. The trouble is, they're infested with weeds. You've got a nice, healthy sage in here. Pick that. You know, that's lovely. Smell that.
Smells lovely,
yeah, fantastic. Beautiful.
Yeah, incredible.
Unfortunately, again, weeds running through it.
The tour ends with a look at a project very close to Ross's heart, the old shed.
I think it is solvable, it's fixable. In fact, so I can pimp it up a little bit and this can be my place. I'm thinking like perhaps a little veranda.
Okay, I admire your optimism. I was going to say I've seen worse, but actually no, I haven't.
With a derelict shed to renovate and the place overrun with weeds, Monty is worried about Ross's commitment. Next, the thorny issue of funds.
My budget is ad hoc. It's kind of as it goes.
50 quid?
100 to 200.
Okay, fine.
Over the...
That's reasonable. Yeah. That's not at all unreasonable. It's going to be a very steep learning curve.
Yeah. I'm a quick learner.
So let's have a look at your plans. Got any drawings, any ideas, any inspiration?
Back in the shed.
Okay,
yeah.
Monty's beginning to see that Ross's dream is going to need careful management if he's to stand any chance of pulling it off.
OK, so I have done...
Let's put that on there.
Some plans.
No, I like... Gosh, that's a good plan.
It's not ridiculously ambitious.
Ross has studied town and country planning to a very high level and has drawn up a clear and thorough design. He hopes to plant fruit trees on the far border and build 4 raised vegetable beds for growing potatoes, carrots, onions, and 4 smaller ones for herbs and strawberries. He'll repair the old shed as best he can and extend it with a veranda with a roof and a bar. Beside the veranda, he wants to create a barbecue and picnic area. And at the rear of the shed, he plans to make a compost bin. Monty's eye is immediately drawn to the shed.
Shed veranda extension?
Yeah. It's salvageable, I swear.
Well, I'm really trying to work out if we're dealing with utterly noble, admirable ambition or sheer delusion.
Probably a bit of both, isn't it?
The plan looks impressive, but there's a vital element missing.
The compost heap is round the back.
Yes.
How are you getting to your compost heap? The reason why I'm being a bit pernickety about this is that paths and access are really important.
Sure, okay.
Always. And you're going to be going to the compost heap a lot.
Yeah, okay.
So it needs to be a good path, one that you can get to and make it accessible. I think this is a good plan. The overarching problem is getting on top of the weeds.
Yeah.
Monty is clear that the all-pervasive infestation of weeds cannot be overlooked, and he makes the radical suggestion that Ross should cover the far end of the plot with weed-suppressant membrane. He should forget about his 4 larger beds for now and concentrate this year's efforts on half the area. Next, Ross should put down bark chippings for the paths and build a larger compost bin. And as for the shed, Monty would replace it with a brand new one.
Well, Ross, you may not be an expert gardener, but you do a nice plan.
I'm quite chuffed that you like my plan. All those years studying town planning paid off. It's great.
But Monty's approval comes with a warning. Ross has to get rid of all those weeds, and he's keen to get on with that right away.
You've got to get the roots out. Okay. And it does almost mean sifting through it like this. And look, those are bindweed roots there.
Sure.
And sometimes you come across them as a great ball of spaghetti.
Okay.
You see the plants growing up. So if this broke off, that is effectively a rooted cutting.
Okay.
And that will grow into a nice, strong plant.
It needs to go.
It needs to go.
Once the pair have wrestled with the weeds in one patch, Monty is ready to teach Ross how to prepare a veg patch correctly.
So the first thing you do is you mark out a trench. So you draw a line across the area, and that's quite a reasonable amount. When you're digging, always use a spade, never a fork.
Okay.
That's a spit, okay? The length of the spade is a spit.
Right.
So a trench is normally a spit wide and a spit deep.
Okay.
Okay? So you just go down the full spit, let the spade do the work, and then use your feet. So you push down like that. And I'm breaking the soil up. It's in all sorts of... And if you see any weeds as you go along, take them out. Right, now you need some compost or manure. Just add some slightly on the edge, like that. And you're just adding a bit to help the structure, and then you start the next trench. And the next trench fills in the first one.
That one, sure, okay.
So it goes along like this.
Yeah, I think I've got it.
It's time for Ross to give it a go. And for extra encouragement, Monty offers him a special privilege.
Well, I'm going to do something which I've never, in 25 years, let happen before. You can use my spade.
Oh, my God.
Go on. And systematically work across.
Sure.
And you'll hit a rhythm.
Sure.
You know, it'll feel comfortable. How does it feel working the soil? Because in the end, that's what gardening is more than anything else.
Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable if there wasn't people, if you weren't here.
Fine. You've inherited lovely soil on the allotment.
Good to know.
It's now pretty much weed-free. You know, if you can't grow vegetables in this, you can't grow veg.
Monty's time is
Right, yeah,
nearly
no, it
up,
makes total
but
sense.
Ross isn't going to let Britain's top gardener leave without picking his brain one more time.
And when do you think we can start putting stuff in the ground?
Over the next week or so, can sow French beans, both dwarf and climbing. You can sow some sweet corn direct. You can sow courgettes direct.
Well, it's started, hasn't it?
It started, Ross. That's all that matters.
Despite the huge task Ross is facing, Monty has left him feeling optimistic.
I was a bit nervous to start with, because you've got the king of gardening coming to look at your plot, which, quite frankly, was in a bit of a mess.
When I came here this morning, I knew that Ross had absolutely no gardening experience, never had an allotment, he had no money, and that he expected to grow lots and lots of vegetables this year. And that was a very, very tall order, because it's quite late on in the season. However, do you know, I think it's possible. The soil is good, it's not too big, he's got a really good plan. I think he could pull it off.
It's going to be challenging, but it's going to be good. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Summer has well and truly arrived. Alex is uncertain about Monty's suggestion of a big statement tree at the heart of her woodland garden. So he sent her to Hooker Hall, a stately home near the Cumbrian coast, belonging to generations of the Cavendish family. Its 25 acres of gardens and woodlands include a distinguished collection of mature trees. Head gardener Glyn Sherritt is on hand to give the family a tour. starting with a show-stopping botanical curio, Hooker's enormous monkey puzzle tree.
Monkey puzzles were very popular in the Victorian period in front gardens. See, this one's probably about 150 years old. They will get vast eventually if you leave them for long enough.
They are magnificent in the right setting, though.
Absolutely. In a garden this scale, they work. And that's, you've sort of hit the nail on the head there, really, is that you should always be thinking of what's appropriate for your garden.
I don't think I'm going to be able to fit that in the back of the car on the way home.
Hooker's grounds are home to a host of ancient trees, many of which have grown hoary and twisted, giving them the look Alex is after.
I think these trees are really interesting because not only have you got kind of moss growing from the bottom, you've got this kind of flaky bark as well.
Older trees tend to have the more textured bark. It tends to come with age.
Like people, really.
Watch it.
There's one particular tree that Glyn thinks Alex will really like.
Wow.
That's absolutely magnificent.
I know, it looks like something you'd find in a fairy grotto.
The great Hooker lime was probably planted in the early 1600s, and today its huge trunk measures more than 25 metres in circumference. It is recognised as one of Britain's 50 greatest trees.
How old do you think this tree is then?
Given the size, it's probably about 600 years old. You can imagine all the things that live in it. There's probably owls, birds nesting, that sort of, I think there's a few bees' nests probably, and it's just everything. It's like a hotel for wildlife.
With its hollow trunk, craggy bark and huge canopy, this ancient tree represents everything Monty envisaged for Alex's fairy tale space.
The older they get, the more enchanted they become. You can just imagine fairies and all sorts living.
Yeah, perfect.
Tucked away, yeah. Elves.
Yeah.
I think it's gorgeous. I think all the branches trailing down, it's really giving it kind of the fairy grotto vibe.
You tried hugging it, Alex?
I don't think my arms will stretch.
Do it in sections. Like,
Yeah.
By the end of the visit, Alex has seen some of the most remarkable trees. But how does that translate into her dream for her own tiny back garden?
I think the trees I saw today were more of what I had in mind. They were trees that I didn't really think I could just pop into my backyard because it's taken years for them to get that way.
Well, I think they gave you the vision that you could scale that down.
Yeah, they did.
Perhaps make a smaller version of what you've seen.
Yeah. The visit today has confirmed that I am on the right track for my vision.
The inspirational visit has made Alex keen to get going. So back in Blackpool, she makes a start on her layout.
Okay, so these are the stepping stones that I'm going to be using to get from one part of the garden to the other. They're basically going to be laying in a sea of wood chippings. Keep the forest theme alive.
She's yet to decide what kind of tree to choose, but is already working out where to put it.
The tree is going to go bang in the middle of the garden. The stepping stones are going to go round the tree. It'll definitely be showpiece.
So far, so good. But deciding exactly what sort of tree to choose is still a bit daunting.
It was weighing up what can look good, what fits in with the theme, what am I going to be able to look after. It's September where I'm aiming to finish it by, but there's still a low level of anxiety there that all my other plans aren't going to come into fruition.
To show Ross that creating an allotment is not all hard work, Monty has suggested a visit to Wellsbourne Allotments in Warwickshire to see what can be achieved, and on a very low budget. The 3-hectare site is one of the oldest in the country and was first cultivated in the 1840s. Ross is meeting gardeners Ian and Joe, who are focused on vegetables and recycling on their plot.
So this is it? This is the plot?
This is it, this is our plot, yeah. We've got from the road, and then it goes all the way up to just beyond our shed, so it's a half plot.
Half a plot. Looks like you're growing quite a bit.
Yeah, we've not got a bad variety.
Sure, OK.
So, we can give you a guided tour and
can't
show
wait.
you around.
Yeah, inspire me.
We'll certainly do our best.
First stop is to have a look at Ian and Joe's top tip for creating the cheapest of raised beds. Instead of spending money on making conventional raised beds, Ian and Joe simply use the biggest cast-off containers they can find.
Raised beds. We managed to get some empty pots at the tip.
OK, great.
So 3 for £1, these massive pots.
Good
and
news.
then the other 3 was an old dustbin that we cut into
a barrel.
bits.
OK.
It's in a barrel, and I just cut it up into 3.
Upcycling is, it's what my allotment's all about.
Oh, well, there you go.
Music to my ears.
It's amazing what you can do with these things.
I think part of it is actually seeing the potential in things.
Yeah.
And then the other great recycled project is the shed.
I can't wait to see your shed. Yeah, I've heard big things.
Oh, he's very proud of his shed. He's very proud of his shed.
Excellent.
Well, should we tootle on?
Yeah, great, yeah. Let's have a look.
Excellent.
Although Monty thought Ross's shed was beyond repair, Ross is determined to bring it back to life.
So the majority of the materials came from a pet shop, which was closing down.
Right.
And I got some vegetable racking
Okay.
and shelving. And the galvanised shelving I've bolted together, and the shelving actually forms the frame of the shed.
What you've got here with the seating next to your shed is exactly what I want, really. It's somewhere that you can relax at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, just this week we were sitting up here with a bottle of fizzy for my birthday.
Perfect, yeah. Just brilliant to hear, because my budget is pretty much just about zero.
Having shown Ross 2 money-saving ways of making his dream a reality, Ian introduces the all-important element of encouraging wildlife into the plot.
We actually put frog spawn in there, and obviously got frogs, but there's also newts in there, so quite where the newts have come from, we don't know.
Yeah, well, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, we've created the habitat, and now they're here, which is really nice.
I mean, I've got a little area at the back of behind my shed where I can't really do much with it, so I am thinking now, yeah, perhaps a little pond might be suitable.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit of wildlife, and build a little bug hotel and just have
Sounds lovely.
Have a little wildlife area going on. Obviously, I've never done this before. It's super daunting, but it's kind of given me a bit of hope that, you know, I might actually be able to do this.
Back at his own allotment, Ross is soon putting his research to good use.
When we spoke to Ian and Joe, obviously saw their pond and their little wildlife reserve, and that's kind of inspired me to do my own little ones, and decided to go along the bug hotel route just to get some of those little bugs to help me kill the slugs as much as anything. And with the pond, hopefully we can get some wildlife, just have a cool little area. But, you know, I've had the kids up as well.
And as a sign that Ross is now beginning to enjoy this adventure, he's invited some young visitors to join in.
These are my godchildren, so I thought it'd be quite nice to, you know, to actually get them right at the start. So what kind of bugs do you reckon we'll get?
Ants.
Which ones?
Ants.
Ants, yeah, probably get some ants in there. Some wood lice.
Some spiders.
Yeah, some spiders.
Yeah.
I see the little ones with the holes in. That's bamboo. Hopefully we'll get some bees in there.
Sarah's come down to help too. She's noticed a big change.
I think Ross has really got his allotment mojo working. I think he's done loads in the last few days, and I think that's got a lot to do with visiting the allotment that he went to see, and it's given him some real kind of oomph as in to how it could look and you know, how exciting and how individual he could make it. So, Ross, we're going to plant these peas around these tripods you've put up.
OK, great.
Cool.
Even though everyone is encouraging Ross, he's not quite sure he can fulfill his dream.
The main things I'm worried about, it's the workload of... There's still so much weeding to do, which you've got to be in the right frame of mind for it. Sometimes the thought of coming up here and just like, today's job is the weeding. It's not completely fun, so I just hope that that doesn't drag me down too much.
Back in Blackpool, Alex now has to make that big decision. Monty suggested that her fairy tale garden should have a large tree as the central feature. She's seen some very old ones at Hooker and done some further research. Now it's time to take the plunge and just go shopping.
Hi, John.
Good afternoon.
She's got an idea, and now she's come to Maple Tree Farm, a nursery nearby in Preston, to find out whether this would be the right choice.
I think what I've liked the look of is a weeping willow. I think it's a gorgeous looking tree.
The nursery's owner, John, takes her through the maze of trees on show.
Here we are, weeping willow, Salix chrysocoma. Very, very attractive tree. Very, very lovely when they're young like this, and very, very lovely when they've grown into a big tree if they're in a very big garden area, especially near a pond or a lake.
See, my garden theme is a bit of an enchanted woodland, and I just think something like this it would have looked perfect in it, really. It's gorgeous.
But John has reservations about Alex's choice for her particular garden.
They, unfortunately, don't stay like this. They grow very, very quickly.
Oh no, what a shame, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
I have my heart set on a weeping willow.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Alex is naturally disappointed, so John comes up with what he thinks might work better for her.
We've got weeping birch behind you here.
Oh, yeah.
This is much more of a garden-sized tree. The foliage is that little bit different, but it's in the eye of the beholder.
It might be the more practical option, but it just doesn't really have the impact of the weeping willow.
Since this will be the focal point of Alex's dream garden, it must be just right.
It's not hitting the mark, is it? No. No. Well, there's all manner of other trees here.
Okay, can we see some of the ones that blossom in the spring?
Indeed.
This time, John has no hesitation in recommending something he thinks will fit the bill perfectly.
This is a very, very nice flowering tree. This is Malus mochum, crabapple. And the tree is absolutely laden with blossom in the spring. So it's a very, very beautiful tree.
As John is keen to point out, this crabapple tree will give Alex year-round interest, with its dark pink blossom in spring, an autumn crop of miniature apples.
So it does something for the majority of the year, then?
It's a tree that's quite suited to a smallish garden.
I really like this one.
You like this one?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, well, that's... yeah, so...
I think we might have a winner. Box her up. Thanks for your
There
help,
you are.
John.
OK, yeah.
It's the end of July, and nearly 6 weeks since Monty first visited Ross's allotment. Last time, he advised only tackling part of the plot during this first year, concentrating on weeding and planting up only half the raised beds Ross wants to build. Now Monty's back, and keen to see if Ross has been sticking to the plan.
There are two things that I'm looking for today. The first would apply to any allotment holder, which is to manage your expectations.
Last time Monty was here, we kind of agreed to focus on just half of the plot. I've done more than that, I've done 2/3 of the plot. And we've got stuff in the ground now.
The second thing is that this allotment for Ross is all part of rebuilding his life, of getting things under control and creating a foundation upon which he can move forward.
We had like a bit of a mini heatwave last week. I was up here pretty much every day, doing my digging, getting a bit of a sweat on, and then afterwards cracked open a cider. It went straight to my head. It was really enjoyable. It's exactly what I want from this garden. Monty.
With help from his friend Sarah, Ross hopes to surprise his mentor.
Hi. Monty, how you doing?
I'm fine, and I'm delighted to see progress.
Progress? It looks a little bit almost like an allotment.
Has it been hard work?
Yeah. I mean, I'm having to come up every couple of days to stay on top of the weed.
Right. And so you've been guiding him, sir, through...
I have. There's been lots of very interesting text messages of, can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Time for an inspection.
Crops are growing. So
radishes.
Radishes, and they've really come up well.
Yeah, and some herbs in my little buckets, which were just lying around the plot.
But the big question is, has Ross limited his expectations?
One of the things that I think I remember saying to you, is not to try and do it all in one go.
Yeah, it's less daunting. I can see progress happening because I'm sticking to the plan.
Good. Now, what would you like me to mentor you with today while I'm here?
OK, so if we take a look at the compost heap.
It's always a good place to start. Lead on.
As Monty advised, Ross has made his compost bins with more than one compartment.
Well, it's good. It's a really good start, this. Pallets make great compost heaps. And that's your composting material?
Yeah, I mean, I've been chucking everything in there.
Monty believes that, like this, Ross can have his own homemade way of enriching his soil. But there are rules to making good compost, and a quick look soon shows Monty that these haven't been followed.
You can add anything that has lived, but I wouldn't add any cooked food, any meat, or any fats.
Right.
Because that would just attract rats.
OK.
But you can add an old jersey, a woolen one, your hair, if you have a haircut, kitchen waste, anything like that. Chop it up, mix it up, and then finally you want a good balance between brown and green. And the brown are woody stems, dry stuff, whereas actually the things like the grass and fresh leaves are green.
OK.
Green high in nitrogen, brown high in carbon, and you want a balance between the two.
Kind of makes sense, so...
Kind of makes sense? That's damning with the faintest of praise. Listen, this is a lifetime's experience I'm handing on to you. I'm the king of compost.
It totally makes sense.
OK, so let's get that out and we'll break it up as best we can.
There's no hiding from the expert. Monty can tell Ross hasn't got the mix right or done enough preparation to help it break down properly.
Right, if I open it like that, can you see how that this is actually as dry as a bone?
OK.
And it's not composting at all.
Right, OK.
And if you put things in there, break them up, increase the surface area, the more of that you can do, the better.
But there are some things that are never going to work.
It's no good burying a rose in a compost heap.
I was hoping you wouldn't spot that one.
I'm thinking it's going to compost.
Yeah.
If you can't shred them, don't add them to the compost heap.
And having gone through what's there, Monty follows this with a suggestion of what Ross can add to his rather dry heap.
Have you got some green material?
A bucket of greens.
Brilliant. Now, do you see how this is now getting a bit chopped up? There's a much better chance of that composting.
OK.
If we mix that with that lovely green material...
Yes.
And then if you chop this up a bit, like that, and mix it a bit, mix that up in there, and already you can see literally green and brown, which is a pretty good guide to go with. That will compost.
OK, great.
And if you feel it's light, there's air in there.
Right.
It shouldn't be heavy on the fork or in your hands.
OK.
The other thing is if you've got a lot of dry material and you can't do anything about it, water it.
OK.
Wet it.
Right, OK.
And that will dramatically help. You know, mix it all up so it's nice and loose and aerated, and that stands a fighting chance of making compost.
Start cooking.
Yeah. You're on the road to compost.
Excellent, brilliant, thank you for that.
It's nearly time for Monty to leave, but before he goes, he has a few final words of encouragement.
Keep the impetus going.
Yeah.
And remember, if you go to the trouble of clearing a piece of ground with a new allotment, the worst thing you can do is leave it empty.
Yeah.
Because the weeds will come back.
Right.
I'm coming back in a few weeks' time to help you again.
Yeah.
What's apparent, talking to Ross, and perhaps even more watching him listening, is that he's an intelligent, thoughtful man who, of course, can manage growing vegetables.
I think it is going to be a trial and error because, you know, as I've said many times, I've never done this before. But hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm doing everything as well as I can.
What is really noticeable is that he's tentative. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. And I suspect that's all to do with his frame of mind. There's no question that as he gets more assured, the allotment will get better too.
The summer is reaching its height as Monty heads back to Blackpool. He's curious to find out if Alex took his advice about her enchanted forest design.
I'm very excited at the prospect of seeing a really large tree with gnarled, mature growth dominating the garden. I really hope she's gone with it, because it would be very exciting.
Things have definitely moved on.
Right. You've been busy. Let me just work out what's been done. Is there going to be a path?
The path is going to follow all the way from the deck into the rose arch.
OK. And the rose arch, which is now in position?
Yes, I'm planning to keep it there in the little corner of the garden.
But clearly, Monty is missing something important.
I was expecting a much larger tree. At what point did you change your mind about that?
I don't think I want a tree overwhelming the rest of the garden.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, what matters is you've arrived at where you want it to be. So the next stage is to plant it. Where do you want the tree to go?
Monty can see that Alex is beginning to feel more sure of what she's after. Time for action.
I'm thinking basically right in the middle of the garden, and the path moves around it.
So if you go back onto the decking and you can see, and just say up a bit, down a bit.
See, I was going to move it further to my left, your
Okay.
right.
OK.
Yeah, and maybe slightly towards me. And then I think we've got... Yeah, it's probably about...
How's that?
Yeah, it's probably about where I was going to put it.
Once Alex has selected the spot, Monty gets ready to plant the precious new addition to her garden. Just on cue, reinforcements arrive.
Right, Dad's here to help.
Very, very pleased to see you. The cavalry is here. It used to be thought, when I started planting trees, you added compost and manure underneath it, and
That's
you
what I
gave it a
thought,
start, and
yeah.
you fed it. We don't do that now, because if you put goodness underneath the roots are going to stay there.
Yeah.
Why would they not? And it delays the growing out.
Right.
You put your goodness on top, you mulch thickly.
First, Monty gets to work with Kevin and Alex, digging a hole as deep as the tree's container.
The best soil, in theory, is going to be the first foot, which is what, obviously, we need to keep the best soil to feed back in.
Yeah.
And any really rough stuff on the other side.
With Spock overseeing proceedings, they widen the hole.
Right, so we need to take some turf off. At least another foot.
Another foot, yeah.
Right, what we'll do...
What, dig this to...
is take that out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then we'll start digging around.
Right.
So the whole thing's loose.
Now the hole is fully prepared, Monty gives another piece of advice.
So will we need to unravel some
No.
of these small
No, if
roots
it's
at all?
very pot-bound, if the roots, what you can do is sometimes just, don't try and unravel them, but just break them.
Yeah.
Just like that. And what that does is stimulate regrowth from the points where they broke. Critical now.
With all preparation completed, it's time for the heavy lifting.
Perfect. Is that the way you want it?
OK, if you slightly twist it towards you, Monty.
That way, OK, to your left.
To my left, yeah, clockwise then.
Yep. OK, we'll come around again.
Yeah, that side is higher, so that's going to work over a path. Yeah, I'm happy with the look of it.
So, what we'll do is we will water it.
Yeah.
When the water's completely soaked in,
Right.
then we'll mulch it. Otherwise, the mulch can absorb the moisture.
Right.
We planted a big tree, and not many people ever do that.
The garden has moved on, but there's still a lot to do to create Alex's dream.
I will be back at the beginning of September, expecting a magical fairy woodland and perhaps a magical fairy glass or something to celebrate.
I think that can be arranged.
OK. I can't deny that I was a bit disappointed when I saw the size of tree that Alex had chosen. I was expecting something much bigger and older and more venerable than that. But that was a bit unrealistic. And it is big and it does dominate the garden. And importantly, it makes her feel confident. And I think that's the door opener. All she has to do is put the rest together around it. So when I come back in 6 or 7 weeks' time, there will be a fairy forest to celebrate.
August has arrived, and it won't be long before Monty returns for his final visits to both our dreamers. In Bristol, Ross has got round to tackling that rickety shack, determined to convert it into a pub shed. And with growing confidence, he wants to impress his mentor.
I've promised Monty that this shed's going to look pretty awesome. And it will, hopefully.
Once homeless, jobless and suffering from low self-esteem, the progress he's made in his allotment matches his newfound enthusiasm and energy.
Since Monty was last here, Obviously, the big change is wood chip and the paths and a little bit of order to the plot. We're on the home stretch now. It's not long before Monty will be back up here for the last time. It's a bit to do, but I know what I'm doing now, so it's not quite as daunting as it would have been a month or so ago.
With the shed far from becoming the dream pub, he'll be working right up to the wire. Since planting her tree, Alex has had a lot to do to get all the rest of her garden finished before Monty comes to give his verdict.
Okay, so this is one of the last jobs I'm doing before Monty's arrival, and it's just planting the last trough.
What do you think, Spot? Yeah? Is that job well done? The garden I've ended up with, it's so much better than my original dream. I'm glad I ended up with a new and improved version. I think the garden is quite representative of the person who lives here.
For Alex, the big day has finally dawned. With squally weather forecast, her nerves are somewhat jumpy.
I woke up this morning and I was in a bit more of a panic because it was raining. I hadn't finished the trough, I hadn't finished the wood chips. But now, the sun is shining brightly over Blackpool, Monty's on his way, everything's done. I even managed to have an outfit change, so I'm quite confident.
More often than not, when I come to visit a garden for the final time after months and months of work, I have a pretty good idea of what I might see.
I'm hoping he'll say maybe that he hasn't seen a garden quite like it before. In a good way.
We planted the tree, and that's obviously going to be the centerpiece still. But how that has become this magical fairy forest that she spoke about when we started, I don't know. And I can't wait to find out.
He'll like it. And if he doesn't, I'll get him drunk.
Before she started, just over 3 months ago, Alex's tiny garden was as bland as they come. Now it's the enchanted woodland of her dreams.
Look at that. Fantastic. It looks great.
Project completed.
What you've done a huge amount is transformed it.
A winding path leads visitors down the garden, past Alex's carefully chosen crabapple tree, which will produce year-round interest, from delicate blossom to miniature fruit. An array of pink and purple planting is set off by a carpet of wood chippings and the occasional pine cone, as you'd find on a forest floor. The path leads to a fairy arbour, complete with bench, where Alex can sit and enjoy a wishing well, fashioned from a log. Branches, fence and arbour are festooned with lighting, which turns the garden into a mysterious grotto when darkness falls.
I love the way that you've packed so much in, but it doesn't look cluttered. The path leads you on, you want to go around it, and this small space feels like part of something much bigger.
Yeah.
I really like the colour scheme. I think it works very well. It feels rich and full.
It's the purples on one side and the pinks on the other.
And I love the details. I like the way you strategically place the fir cones who look as though they just happen to be there.
You noticed that then?
Yeah. And the stepping stones, the stepping logs, work well.
Alex has peopled her grotto with 1 or 2 inhabitants, thanks to her trips to the local car boot sales.
Oh, there's a gargoyle. Are the others here?
Yeah, he's got a friend hiding away in the garden.
But has Alex managed to stick to her budget?
Just remind me what the original budget was.
The original budget was $1,500, which I was willing to bump up to $2,000.
Right.
And considering I'm an accountant, I really should have a specific figure for you.
Yeah.
But I don't.
I am impressed that an accountant has no idea how much they spend.
Never mind the money. Has it all been worth it?
Does this match your expectations?
Oh, it's more than matched them. It's exceeded my expectations. Yeah, I think it's turned out brilliantly.
Monty's preview complete. It's time for family and friends to explore Alex's dream haven. And amongst them, her helpers.
I'm extremely proud because, I mean, it's all been her idea. She knew exactly what she wanted from the start.
I must admit, the end result, like Sue says, it's worked really well.
We're really, really pleased and happy that all our hard work has paid off. I think it looks fantastic. Given the size of the garden, I don't think we could have made anything better.
Time for Monty to give the garden an appropriate send-off.
We should raise our glasses to a magical fairy forest and hope that it remains magical and that the chief fairy enjoys it for a long, long time to come. So to the magical forest. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Well done. I think the attention to detail in this garden is really extraordinary. And it creates a theatrical set. It is the completion of the fantasy forest that Alex has spoken about all along.
I think my original dream probably couldn't be classified as big. I think he's probably helped me up my game in that respect, and it has turned out to be from a medium-sized dream to a big dream.
And I'm sure very quickly she will realise that this is not a set to stand back and admire, but a garden that you can live with and that she will grow alongside.
It's the day of Monty's final visit to the allotment in Bristol. Has Ross kept up with his work schedule?
Today is unusual because although Ross's dream is as big as any, his horticultural ambitions are modest, but really, really important to him.
I think that Monty will be really impressed. Ross has done everything that he said he was going to do. And I think you know, the allotment's come on leaps and bounds since we began. So yeah, hopefully he'll love it.
He's done well in the allotment, but actually that's not the important thing. What I am looking for is to see the changes in Ross himself and see how coming here and working outside has given him opportunities and chances that he didn't feel that he had before.
It's been really useful having Monty's little visits. It's been extra useful as kind of a motivator, really. You never finish an allotment, but I think, yeah, I feel fairly proud of myself.
It's nearly 4 months since Monty first visited. Then it was a weed-infested and neglected plot, crying out for some TLC. Ross has worked a miracle, transforming his allotment into both an orderly, productive space and a place to relax and entertain.
Ross.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going very well with me, but it seems to be going even better with you. The garden is looking great.
Almost the entire plot has been thoroughly weeded, and nearly all the beds Ross originally planned are now bursting with healthy crops of vegetables and herbs. The paths have been clearly marked out and surfaced with wood chip, and a substantial compost bin is ready to recycle all the waste the allotment will generate. A quirky bug hotel and colourful scarecrow give Ross's domain a touch of individuality, and a picnic area beneath the old plum tree invites relaxation. But nothing signals Ross's dream more than his revamped pub shed. He's put it back together and repainted it, as well as adding the promised bar and veranda.
Look at this, glorious,
Welcome to
glorious
the Ross and
edifice.
Crown.
The Ross and Crown.
Yeah.
Very
My little pub shed.
I like the way that your immaculate drawing has become this characterful, slightly wonky.
Yeah, it's wonky, but it's allotment. Everything's supposed to be wonky in allotment.
Quite right.
You know.
And your bar stool is exactly the right
Yeah.
spirit.
It's got like the reeds for the roof, so it gives it like a kind of a beach bar vibe as well.
Yeah, and a bar, brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely perfect. So the important thing is you said you were going to do it, and you did it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the key. No allotment should be without its own pub.
But even more importantly, no allotment should be without a good display of veg.
And walking up, I'm struck by a glorious charge.
Yeah, we've had some squashes as well.
Have you been eating?
Yeah, we've had, and we had loads of peas.
Good.
Quite nice munching up here as well, you know, like just walking around and just helping yourself, and yeah, it's cool.
So you have an allotment?
Yes.
That's working. And in terms of budget, how much have you spent?
Probably about 100 quid. Yeah. And I've got a patio table out of that, all this wood.
That patio table's very nice too.
Yeah.
So 100 quid
Yeah.
has created an allotment,
Yeah.
mended a shed,
Yeah.
and actually also, although not on a huge scale, got going the rhythm of providing some food. And herbs, of course. What herbs have you got? You've got some chives there.
We've got some mint. Basil seems to be surviving.
Yeah?
Yeah, and we've got some more chives. So.
Before Ross's friends and family turn up to celebrate his achievement, there's something else Monty has to check out.
Yeah, so what can I get you?
I think because we're in Bristol...
Yeah, have a cider.
We should have a cider. Thank you very much. That looks fantastic.
Sarah, what can I get you?
This is also the moment to find out whether the project has fulfilled Ross's dream in more ways than one.
And how are you feeling? How strong are you?
Yeah, this has done me a world of good. I mean, yeah, it really, really has.
Why do you think that gardening is so effective in helping out with stresses and strains and mental problems and physical problems too?
There's the sense of pride, you know, when you sit back, you look at a piece of work that you've done, going, oh, I've done that, and you can feel that you've done it in your whole body. And you kind of get like a real sense of kind of satisfaction. Yeah. It's one of the best things I've ever done, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I had a really positive experience, yeah.
Oh, I'm so pleased. That's good. This is charming. This is the nicest pub I've been to for ages.
Thank you very much.
Time to open the whole allotment for business. Ross's friends are turning up to mark the occasion.
Oh, look, visitors.
Right, visitors.
Visitors.
Hey, nice to see you again.
See you again.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah, good to see you again.
Before Ross came, it was obviously just brambles and there wasn't very much going on, and I used to think, oh, at least mine doesn't look as bad as that one. Now I really need to up my game because his is so beautiful, and it's got a patio and a bar and darts and all that sort of stuff, so I need to come a bit more and get planting a bit more often.
Maybe the focus and having something to do is helping him with that, and he's not going into a dark zone. So yeah, I think this has helped him a hell of a lot.
He's got more of a kick to him. He's full of confidence. He knows where he's going and what he wants to do.
With a thumbs up from his friends, it's time to open the proceedings.
Yeah, so thanks for coming, everybody. This is my allotment. Feel free to have a look around, and I'll start pouring some drinks at the bar. Okay.
Along with admiring Ross's hard work, everyone can enjoy the official opening of the Ross and Crown.
Well done.
Job done, Monty slips away without disturbing the party.
When I took on this allotment, I have to admit that it was on a little bit of a whim. And I've never gardened before. I've never really enjoyed kind of manual labour. But, I just wanted to kind of see if I could do it.
I think the allotment is looking great. It's already given him some crops, but there will be more next year. And that's what's happening with Ross too. And what this allotment has grown over above anything that he's putting on his table is hope. And that is wonderful.
It's been so positive in so many ways. I would recommend it to anybody.
Do you dream of having your own special outdoor space? A small garden that you can admire, enjoy, and call your own. And then you stop and think, I have no idea how to make it. Well, you're not alone.
Monty Don has travelled up and down the country visiting amateur gardeners with bold ambitions. He's scrutinised their plans and pushed them out of their comfort zones.
Going out into deeper, darkest, unknown territory, isn't it?
It's not been easy.
I hate it.
But everyone's worked incredibly hard.
Both of us want to sleep for a week, pretty much.
You've had your tea break, come on.
And the transformations have been extraordinary.
It's just incredible, it really is.
I declare this garden open!
I do believe that everybody, however small their garden, can cultivate a big dream.
This time, our two gardeners are hoping Monty can bring something special into their lives.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
One dreams of enchantment.
It's really giving it kind of the fairy grotto.
The other hopes to feed body and soul.
I want it to be a working allotment, but also somewhere where you can open a cold beer at the end of a hard day's digging.
Both are tackling big dreams on their own.
You've planted a big tree. Not many people ever do that.
And are in need of Monty's guiding but firm hand.
How many hard days digging have you done so far? Because it's pretty overgrown.
Are they asking too much of their spaces and of themselves?
Nobody thinks that it's going to work. So, yeah, I've got a bit of a point to prove here.
He'll like it. And if he doesn't, I'll get him drunk.
Blackpool, on the Lancashire coast, is the home of our first gardener, Alex, an accountant in the civil service. As a first-time buyer, she left her parents' home and moved into this small new-build house 18 months ago, with her spaniel, Spock.
I want it a bit wild, a bit untamed. It's a bit of a blank canvas.
That's quite a dream away from the way it looks right now. 32 square metres of, well, nothing much.
I want an enchanted forest theme. I want a bit of a fairy and mythical creature influence throughout the garden, toadstools, that kind of thing.
Luckily, this novice gardener can count on the help of parents Kevin and Susan, as well as Monty.
I think my mum was particularly thrilled because she was already a Monty Don fan.
I'm just hoping for his years of knowledge, his advice.
I'm definitely not an expert, so I'm looking for all the help I can get.
Our second space is in the heart of Bristol. It's a bit of a wilderness, recently taken over by Ross, who dreams of his very own allotment.
At the moment, the plot needs a lot of TLC. It's overgrown and it needs digging.
Ross is keen to make it productive, but with no experience of growing edibles, he doesn't know where to begin.
I mean, I come up here a couple of times a week and then I just end up kind of staring at the ground for half an hour going, what am I doing?
Ross has had other reasons for feeling despondent.
Well, 6 months ago, I lost my job, broke up with my partner I was living with, and found myself without anywhere to live.
Since then, the good news is Ross has found work and somewhere to live. But there is one drawback.
It doesn't have a garden. I want to grow my own vegetables and also somewhere to relax at the end of the day, which is all part of the kind of rebuilding process.
His friend Sarah is ready to help. She's sure that if Ross got down to work here, it will be the next stage in putting his life together again.
Nature is a great healer. It grounds you. And so I think that Ross's whole healing process will be really getting to grips with the allotment.
There's a lot at stake. So can Monty help Ross achieve his life-affirming dream?
Yeah, I think it'll be great fun having Monty up here. Yeah, he's a legend, isn't he?
It's the very end of spring. With the start of the summer season on its way, it's a perfect time to begin a garden project. Monty's making his first visit to the seaside resort of Blackpool to see what he can do to help Alex create her dream garden.
I'm sure whatever he has to say, he'll be very polite about.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. It's an evolving garden. We're open to discussion, open to different opinions. So
Oh, who's that at the door?
Here barking. Hello. Hello.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Susan. Would you like to come in?
Love to. And who's that?
That is Spock.
Right, come on, Spock. It's me you're barking at.
Spock!
Spock, come on.
Alex, Susan and Spock can't wait to show him the tiny back garden. At the moment, it's a new-build classic, only 4 metres by 8, laid with turf, a plain fence, a small paved area, and an array of random plant pots.
Right. It is a small space.
And she has big dreams.
Right. What do you want to do here?
I want to create my own little enchanted woodland in the back garden.
When you say an enchanted woodland, what do you mean?
I suppose in my mind, I'm seeing kind of more of a stylised
Right.
woodland.
More of an interpretation.
Yeah.
Are you feeling